Awesome. Can everyone see that? Great. So we kind of talked about the Abundance for All framework in our last meeting, but to reiterate, the Women's Foundation of Oregon Abundance for All framework emerged directly from the collective dreams shared by our community. So we've been asking, folks for months now, to tell us what their dreams are for their future, their hopes for the future. We have been collecting those, and we sort of analyze them using some qualitative data methods into some like emergent themes, and that helped inform our 6 pillars of our framework. We believe that policy is simply the structure that we build around these dreams, and this time it's an opportunity to explore how these pillars can become actionable policy priorities. So, what we're going to do is sort of review some of the pillars, leave it open to questions and discussion, and then we're going to show an example of how this policy framework can be used in an actual real way to inform folks' decision making and thinking for the future and for the decisions that we make today. So you'll see here are the 6 pillars that we'll talk a little bit more about in depth. But this kind of framework, which is rooted in collective dreams, we want Oregon to become the first state in the nation to reach, it's like, got too many stuff up here, equity for women across every layer of life, economic, political, social, and cultural. So I'll pass it off to Saba to talk about the first pillar.
Thank you. So first and foremost, safety as a public good. So what makes communities safe? Safety is not punitive, it is preventative, relational, and community-led. No one or community lives in fear in order to survive. So some examples of that is a world free from violence, children safe in schools, everyone having the food and shelter they need before others want, women, girls, indigenous people, black women, disabled people living without fear, and then even going one step further than that, thriving. So you don't want to just live in that past survival mode. Abortion access, public restrooms, healthcare, childcare equity, and freedom to exist without harm or surveillance.
The second pillar is care-centered economic systems, and an economy should exist to support life and not only extract from it. Some examples of that are, putting people over profits, looking at post-capitalist and post-colonial frameworks for how we, continue to survive in this world, using trauma-informed care and community-led care. Um, we're caring for the leaders, we're caring for folks who are doing some of that heavy lifting, and that mutual aid and community responsibility are the assumptions, are, the assumed sort of structures in our world and not folks desperately trying to fill gaps.
The third pillar is rest, restoration, and abundance. So, in our current climate, hard work and overachieving is glorified, but our basic physiology requires us to sleep every night. And it goes beyond sleep. What does having a rested mind look like? And the more you push that, the more disoriented you get, and eventually you do crash. It's necessary to do our necessary to our survival that we prioritize that 1/3 of our lives that we need to dedicate to rest. Rest is not a luxury, it is a necessity for our health, not and for our creativity and our democracy for to thrive. And people have to heal to be able to imagine and to fully live. And some examples of that is the right to slow down. The that rest is a form of resistance that we at WFO have really embodied through our experience and our podcast. Universal basic income, so not struggling to meet those basic needs that we mentioned earlier. Abundance for all, which is what we're hoping to do here, and wealth defined as health, love, time, and community, rather than the tangible mountains out in the real world.
Our next pillar is equity, self-determination, and justice. Equity means what people have what they need to thrive, and this is determined by them, not imposed on them from others. Some ways that we envision this pillar is ending white supremacy, ending patriarchy, racism, misogyny, ableism, age, all the isms, equity across race, gender, disability, and class, allowing the space and opportunities for women and girls to determine their own destinies, and then having those support systems in place to help them achieve those goals. We heard from folks that want Indigenous-led safety and healing spaces, and eventually working towards having almost a kind of justice index by which to judge all of these by geographical regions throughout Oregon and hopefully the nation.
And the fifth pillar is community over competition. So here we have this general theory of collective versus individualistic cultures. But at the core of it, we are social beings. We're not built in isolation and we will not survive there either. So it is important for strong community. It's important that strong communities are built through cooperation and not scarcity mindset. It's important to keep in mind that no one is forced to succeed alone. No one does succeed alone. Community care over individualism. Again, that collective healing, collective building over isolation, because again, you do not heal in isolation. Collaboration over scarcity, preservation, and intergenerational support. And matriarchal values of wisdom, rest, and belonging, again, over that individualistic culture and mindset that we are all accustomed to.
And then last but not least, talking about opportunity, creativity, and purpose. We believe, as do our community, that every person deserves the opportunity to dream and the resources provided to them to pursue those dreams. That looks like a lot more entrepreneurship, women-owned and employee-owned businesses. So moving towards a co-op model or, profit sharing model where all folks benefit off of their labor and not just the few. That looks like a lot more opportunities and access to education, technology, in the STEM fields and all across the spectrum. That also means that folks have some time and space to pursue some of their creative dreams, whether that be some folks cited wanting to be opera singers, but if that entrepreneurship, legacy building, you dream it, there should be a path and some resources available for everyone to follow those dreams. So basically, kind of to sum that all up, this pillar really speaks to wanting folks to have purpose-driven lives that align with dignity and peace.
So what we really wanted to do is, let me go here. Um, Give you all a tangible tool ahead of the primaries. You are going to hear a lot about the election season. Oregon primaries are coming up in May, and then of course this is a big election year with the midterms. So election season gives you a whole lot of what? Do this, do that, vote for this, vote for that. But they don't always give you the why, and we wanted to change that a little bit. So we wanted to introduce how something called the Abundance for All Framework lens to evaluate political candidates and committees and ballot measures. So this tool was created to help you make informed decisions, make decisions that are value aligned. When voting, this is not about telling you who to vote for. This is about giving you a way to evaluate whether candidates and measures align with the future or community that we have all collectively dreamt of. So as you review candidates or ballot measures, ask yourself these questions. Which pillar or pillars are most important to you? Does the candidate or ballot measure reflect the kind of world or future you envision? And there's a link at the bottom. This is on our website, so I just wanted to highlight that. But we are going to go through that here momentarily. So there are an infinite number of ways for you to evaluate who or what you are voting for. And our team pulled together four key things that we think that everyone should consider. Candidate or ballot website, evaluating what they're putting out there. If it's an incumbent, their voting record, if that's applicable. Endorsements, who or what is making an endorsement for yes or no, which candidate, and then campaign finance.
Is this me, Saba?
Yes, it is. Sorry.
All right, let me move this over so I can read it. So applying this lens, basically I think as we saw in the pillars, there's a lot of overlap. There's some separation there, but the ones that really resonate with you, the ones that you kind of felt close to your heart, ask yourself, does this candidate or measure move us closer to these visions? Where do you see alignment? Where do you see gaps? I think a thing that we don't think a lot about is what isn't mentioned or what isn't present in the conversation. That can be very revealing as to where a person stands or where a measure intends to go. And after you kind of think through that, then you can kind of make a choice that reflects your values, your community needs, and that shared dream or vision of abundance. And also, as an asterisk, there will be no perfect candidates. I think individuals are human beings. They are flawed. We should not put all of our hope and, pin all of our hopes and dreams onto one person, or, a measure. But I think that this process is more about alignment, more about that general direction that we're all moving towards and not perfection.
Okay, first up, while that photo loads for a second, candidate websites or measure websites. So the purpose of a political campaign website is to serve as a central platform for candidates to communicate their message, their values, and policy positions in their own words. So they hire people where they do that themselves. They write the words that they put on there. Everything that you find on a candidate's website is something that they have done or their team has done. To simply find a website for a candidate or a ballot measure or something, you can simply just Google their name and the position that they are running for. So you could, Google Jeff Merkley, Oregon Senator, or Andrea Salinas, Congresswoman, whatever, and it'll usually come up. So some of the things that you want to keep in mind when you are looking at websites, what issues are highlighted and which issues are missing. Taxes and tax policy. Taxes are policy in action. What issues does the candidate want to fund versus where do they want to defund with tax dollars? Because everything that they do happens through tax dollars. Effectiveness. Do they have a track record of success? Are they endorsed by folks who share your values? Do you believe this? Um, Sorry, I lost my spot. Do you believe this candidate will make choices that will lead to abundance for all? And then even taking a peek at their events calendar, are they attending forums or are you attending a forum? Get to know them, attend a town hall, attend a campaign event, and talk to them about your values. It's an important, valuable way to learn more about the candidate or the ballot measure and ask questions that you might have on the spot.
The next thing that people can do that can be useful, and this is specifically for incumbents, is you can look at their voting record. Um, this really helps illuminate how the votes have affected communities, who is benefiting from the way that they voted, who is being left out. This is a real way to see if candidates are translating their values into actions, right? I think we've all spent a long time on this earth hearing a lot of promises, but this is really where the kind of rubber hits the road proverbially and where folks are making real decisions that affect your lives. And so, ask yourself, do they move closer to the future that we are dreaming for or further away? For the state legislators, OLIS is a great way to see how folks have voted. That's OLIS. But for city and county levels, it can be a little bit trickier. Usually there's some meeting minutes. It takes a little bit of digging, but you can see sometimes they do have public voting tallies, and so you can see where folks, and this one's, this is like a pretty deep dive to see how folks are operating in the space, but can be definitely worthwhile um, to see if that person is who they say they are and is aligned with the values that you hold.
And you'll notice the photo that was on that screen had all yes votes. I very deliberately looked for bills that had unanimous support or opposition, and that was a bill that was passed earlier this session in the Oregon legislature on protecting folks from using AI in a inappropriate ways. So creating images and likeness of folks using AI. So as you can see, everyone voted yes to pass a bill that protects folks from other people using your face to create images that are inappropriate or whatnot. So endorsements. Endorsements are when an individual or an organization publicly supports a political candidate, party, or policy. So it is important that you review the endorsers. Consider, does the endorser have credibility? Is it a trusted organization? Are they values aligned? Does the endorser's mission or ideology match the candidate's platform? Consider potential bias or interest, who benefits from the endorsement. Does the endorser benefit financially or politically? Because sometimes it does have a financial attachment to it. And politically, that's really meaning like platform, brand alignment. If someone's putting their stamp of approval, that means that they are aligning with the values that they hold. Does the measure impact? So when considering measures, did the endorsement lead to increased donations, media coverage, or polling changes? So considering what endorsements are there and which ones are not.
And the last one that we have is campaign finance. So this is sort of following the money, if you will. Oregon law requires that all committees and campaigns register with the Secretary of State once it has received or spent over $1,500. And those are all publicly available on ORSTAR. You can create a login, but it's free to create. And so that is where you can really see where endorsements are very public, they're very public facing. Campaign finance is not always so public facing. Oregon has some pretty good transparency stuff going on, but there's still PAC money. There's still donations that are coming in through sort of sketchy means, if you will, that don't always align with your values or not. So it's really important to take a look at that campaign finance list and decide for yourself if that matters, if the PACs that you see, if they are aligned with your values. Is it grassroots support? Where in the state is that coming from? You can get a lot of information and a lot of transparency from that campaign finance from ORSTAR.